thank you all. You all have very different and interesting investment profiles, which is one of the things that gives this program its diversity. We now have 200 funds participating on the Greenbacker Showcase platform. We're looking to really amp that up in the months to come, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But really, this is about the ventures. I chose the theme of fire, both in remediation and suppression and in detection, because it's been topical. It's been in the news. There's been a lot of wildfire breakout in North America, in Europe. My son is down in Greece right now. They haven't been immune from it. And I was just, this summer, I had clocked a large industrial fire in my hometown of Chicago, just outside of Chicago Southwest. 80 to 100 tons of lithium-ion batteries caught fire with a toxic emission bonus as well. Not good. And certainly the area of fire remediation is a topic I thought was right to pull these two ventures together. So very different approaches to the industry. But first up, I'd like to give Harm Botter, the CEO of Exxfire, who along with Eric Warner, Dr. Eric Warner, and Edward Verver are here to present their program. They're going to give us 5 minutes where they're at, what they need to move forward, and then we'll open it up to questions. And then second off, we'll have Carson Bringshot from Dryad Networks to talk about their wildfire early detection. So Harm, can I give the mic over to you, please? And I'll mute myself while you talk. I'll give you a 30-second warning if you're going to go over the 5 minutes. I want to keep to time.
Yeah, that's fine. So thank you for everyone for showing up and having interest in our very exciting venture. So about what is it? A decade ago, I came across a very interesting technology at the time at the desk of a research organization and meant to be deployed at a satellite for propulsion purposes. And the whole thing is about pressureless gas storage. And I was aware of the issues in the industry, that there is sufficient fire suppression, but actually there's none. And if you can bring this embryonic technology, as it was at the time, to a real business, that was exciting to me at that time, and it still excites me today. So I show you a few slides to give you a quick impression of what we have done so far. And we by now understand that we bring to the industry, to the industrial fire suppression industry, the safest, the greenest, the simplest, and actually also the most economical industrial fire suppression with a disruptive technology. And to brief you on that, is this visible? The second slide. Sorry, so here I have a better visual. So today's technology is about over 100-year-old, and it's inherently dangerous as we talk of the fire suppression in applications beyond water and foam. So you deploy gases and they're stored in high pressure gas cylinders. And look around on the internet and you still will find lethal incidents year by year. So the industry also deploys, apart from inert gases, also chemical gases inside these kind of bottles, and they impact the environment and our human life. And then to summarize, they also are difficult and costly in design, transport, installation, and maintenance. And so the technology that what excited me already some years ago is all about the cool nitrogen gas generator. And here you see an example of the one that we currently have in our portfolio, but we will make many more sizes. And that's 100% safe. And as said, the gas is there in a chemical mixture, in a chemical block, without any pressure, and it can sit there for years, still it is deployed. And only when it is needed, it will produce the gas at ambient temperature at a low pressure rate, and therefore it is seen as non-destructive fire suppression, full stop. And of course, it's easy in design, transport, and installation. If you have more interest, we can show you all the differences. And then to finish, it requires this piece of the whole solution, doesn't require any maintenance, and that relieves the end customer of a lot of headaches. Then in the context of this conference that we are all going to, it was not the purpose of our business 10 years ago, but then it happened also that we are very green, so to say. And if the industry would switch to the nitrogen from our generators, then the switching would bring over time 7 to 10 million megatons per year. And that's only the part, about 3% of the park that is being released each year in gas for actual fire suppression or for test purposes or for anything like that. So that is a very nice benefit of our technology as well. Then to give you a quick idea of where it is deployed. So at the moment, we have gas generators that are well to be used in what we call object protection. So these are cabinets, all sorts. There you can imagine there's electricity inside. That's usually the cause of the problem. You can have them in any room, in any factory, and so on. And that's where we are. And it will not be long that we move on to room protection. We already are very much talking with the industry about battery energy storage systems. As you all know, that's where Robert was referring to, the lithium-ion battery problem. And has been a lot of research already done, and there seems to be a good solution in combination with early detection in combination with nitrogen as the method basically to prevent the start of a thermal runaway, because that's the problem. And then we will move on to all the examples that you're seeing, all with this cool gas generator. Then a few words on the team. Well, you see me on the left, and we have Edwin Verver in the call as well. He's on the third picture with a background in marketing and sales, but already working with Exxfire for the last 9 years. And then we are accompanied by another 8 people, but 2 others to mention is Robert Minkers. He's an early investor in us. He has been retired from Philips, lives in Atlanta, and he ran the Philips show in the US for a long time. And then we have to the right, we have Joost Demming, and he is our factory director and the designer of the generators, and also for the production scaling. He's a chemist by training. And then to conclude, just as this is not a full pitch, but just to give you a flavor of where we are. So I think we are, I would say, early stage, but we have significant sales acceleration since Q3 last year, despite Corona, I have to say. So our commercial efforts were quite hampered, but our customers still pursued the project they had. And so you give you an idea, so we sell to Siemens, and we are well connected to the other market leaders, Kidde and Johnson Controls, and even up to Nomi Bozai in Japan, that we are talking about a distribution contract over there. And we're also being sold into Singapore. Certifications, which are key to really get going, even more than we do today, are underway. We're already working for 1.5 years for a European and EMEA certification, and we are there almost. And then we have started also with UL in Chicago to get entry into the USA and other markets. Then a word on generator production, because that's the key technology. We figured out and find out that we had to move it in-house, and that we can say really can make improving our margins. And if you look at the numbers, it will be very capex low. So that's the right thing to do. And then To finalize, we have a detailed business plan developed over the years. We will turn EBITDA positive in 2023, and there's substantial upside in the business plan. To give you an idea, the market that we are targeting right now is close to $5 billion, and it will grow to 10 by 2030. I think that this for the moment. I hope you will join me in this exciting journey. And I see that the makeup of all the funds in this talk are about early stage. So, and the ticket size are in the range that you were mentioning. So that for the money side that we're looking for.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Harm. I don't know if anybody, I mean, what I'd like to get as part of this session is simply comments, questions, observations. You have any insight in where you think the market's going, any helpful tips, other funds that may be interested as well, even no particular order. You don't need contribution from everybody, but I'd like to get some contributions from as many of you as we can fit in for the next couple of minutes. I'd like to do a stop at a quarter past the hour, set this up for a 45-minute session. So anybody want to kick things off? Mike, any insight, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of questions that I have. Maybe Harm can try to answer them. I'm just wondering, for the system that you have come up with, is it for a new setup, or it can be a change or retrofit the current system?
It is suitable for both. It is retrofit and for new. Yeah.
Okay, and it is for retrofit. I mean, how difficult it is to retrofit it? Does it entail a change of the whole fire suppression system that's really in place, or you just need to change a portion of that?
I see many variations. I do have Edwin in the call, and he's way more into that. Edwin, are you able of answering that on the retrofit?
Yeah, Edwin, if you could unmute, please.
We can stop sharing too. We can give up the screen.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you, Harm. Good suggestion, Eric.
Unmuted myself now. It is object protection is considered additional fire safety. So you're mitigating fire risk, which is abundantly available in all kinds of businesses. And it doesn't require a complete adaptation of the current fire suppression or fire detection system. It's just an addition to. And to give you an example, we have a big installation at a truck manufacturer here in the Netherlands, and they had a very small fire in a cabinet, and that fire set off the sprinkler installation, and that completely flooded the production floor and crippled the production for about 6 weeks. And can you imagine, those guys are producing 200 trucks a day. And 6 weeks of non-production due to a very small fire. So they did an analysis of the potential fire risks within their production facility, and then they came up with an installation of about 35 cabinets that needed additional safety, and that's where we came in, and we are securing those business critical cabinets now with our solution. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thanks for that, Edwin. One more question I have. You mentioned about certification. What kind of certification do you need, for you to actually have this system in place? Do you need to have different certification for different geographical areas? And how long is the process to get a certification up?
Well, to say, we started selling without certifications. So the Siemenses of this world say, well, we can bring the product already to the market, but there will be customers that do not want to have the product for the moment. So it really depends on the customer. That, the ones are easier and the others still like to have the stamp on it. Then on how long it takes, well, we started for the European market and Middle East and parts of Africa. We started with CMPP last year, July, and we are now close to finalizing. And they brought out a norm, because in the beginning there was not even a norm. For a new technology, there's usually not a norm. And you have to ask the certification agencies to produce a norm. And so CMPP worked on that, I think, for a full year. And well, the norm came out last year, February. And we started in July because we knew where the norm was going, and we could, prepare for the product. And then on the UL side, that's a way longer story. That took many years, but we are now, or have already started with UL, and UL is about getting basically worldwide acceptance of our cool gas generator. So the details there, Edwin is very much into the certification area there. So if you want to have more details, then Edwin is clearly he's in the lead with the certification. But long story short, on that end, UL has changed its test protocols to our liking, to where we think the applications are, and to the size of our generator, or the current one. And we are now just in the finalization of getting started with the test. And we expect the test in itself, they say 4 to 5 months. We expect a bit longer, say 6, and that there will be another 3 to 6 months to sign off on committees and God knows what. So a full year is expected there.
I think, Harm, it's probably worth mentioning too that we have passed through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
And have a clear bill of health there as well.
Yeah, that in itself took about 2 years to get there. So we have also now the acceptance of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, to get into the U.S. market. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay,
If
great,
I
thanks.
could, Raphael, if I could ask you, I would have thought that Ecuador has quite an estate of assets that could benefit from this technology. I don't know what what your first impressions were, but I'd be interested in your comments if you're happy to jump in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Robert, for the question. The first impression that I got here when I was seeing those storage facilities that you mentioned, modular data centers, and anything that all those systems that might control our storage assets, where we're planning to become to scale up the development of storage in the US and Europe. I think that could be a potential direct application. I have less experience on the oil and gas installations given my background, but I suspect that this solution could also be applicable offshore, especially given Equinor's strong focus in safety and security. So looking forward to continuing the conversation on this.
Okay, yes. Yeah, we are in contact with oil and gas companies, and so there makes sense that we have some interesting segments there as well.
All right, well, maybe something for post this call. Hey, Frederick, guys, didn't know if you had any questions, any interest in Exxfire. Just interested in what you think of the space, and is that an area of interest for you guys or no?
Thank you, Robert. For us, unfortunately, it is not connected to our strategic focus. So this is not a firm we would look further into, although it's very interesting. Thank you for your pitch. And
Nicholas, Richard, Victoria, I didn't know if you had any comments on Exxfire or even any observations on their program. Whoever wants to jump in. Richard, you've unmuted first. You want to?
Yeah, nothing major other than I thought overall the message was quite clear in terms of a good amount of initial traction. Obviously, it sounds like a lot of work in the background over the years to get to the readiness in terms of certification and so on. And sounds very interesting. I guess the devil's always in the detail in terms of the focus of which markets are really going to be moving forward quickest. But I thought the initial impression was very good.
Thank you.
Harm, you've had some pretty reasonable revenue traction this year. I can't recall exactly what your on target earnings are this year, but I thought you're starting to edge into 7 figures. Is that right?
The 7 figures over the million. Now we will be just short of that, but we will grow as fast as we did last year. Well, we grew despite Corona, and we will continue to do so. So it will be not far from the 1 million. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, Victoria, Nicholas, I didn't know if you had any contribution or any observations on this area of the industry. Nicholas, I appreciate that you. Do I remember that your mandate is U.S. Only, or do you venture further afield?
Yeah, that's correct. So from an investment perspective, this is a bit beyond our reach, but the technology itself is fascinating. We have a couple of companies that are operating in the kind of industrial manufacturing space.
Nicholas, may I add, baby?
Broadly.
Oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, to make it really live, we are not. Well, of course, it's we are not far from U.S. entry. The parties that we all know them, they know us, and we talked with well, let's put a name there, with Kidde already 2 years ago. They want to bring it around the world, and under one condition, and that is if we are ready to scale. Well, I will not bother you about the details, but now we are. We were 2 years ago, and then we have another interest from another American company. It will show up next week here with their innovation director, and that's particularly about our larger generator that we meant to bring out very shortly. So we have now this size, and we'll bring it to larger sizes. So to tap, for instance, on this battery energy storage market, which is kind of hot right now, and people are looking for solutions, and the nitrogen seems to be it. And it's not our advertising; it's really about research done by some companies. But Siemens, I mentioned the name a couple of times, but they spend most of the energy in it. Basically, their headquarters in Switzerland, in Zug, they invested a lot of money in finding out what to do with this real problem for the energy transition.
Well, thank you, Harm.
Okay.
Just in the interest of time, I think I don't want to run over too much, and Carsten has been very patient in waiting for his chance to present. Carsten's approach is one of the most interesting that I have seen in the forestry and forestry management space, but I'll leave him to tell you about it. Carsten, would you can I hand the mic over to you, please?
Sure. Thank you, Robert. Hello, and nice to meet you, and the opportunity to talk to you today. So my name is Carson Bringshot. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Dryad Networks. My background is 25 years in telecoms network infrastructure. I've had 3 companies, 3 startups in that space doing infrastructure software. I spent 12 years in London running a public company there. The 3 companies have been exited. The last company I ran after moving back to Berlin was a spin-off from Fraunhofer Focus, where we did 4G network infrastructure software, which we did sell to Twilio, which is now running their IoT network infrastructure. But of course, this is not about my past; it's about the future. So maybe I should also do a very quick and dirty pitch about Dryad. So this is a new company. We were just started in 2020. We're a team of 7 co-founders, very much on technology, industry, sales, and science. We're focusing on, it's our tagline, connecting the natural world. That's the infrastructure, the telecom guy, but really the application that we're focusing on initially is the ultra early detection of wildfires. And we've chosen wildfires because there's such a huge impact potential in it. I was shocked when we started Dryad. It was kicked off by the number that really drove me nuts, that wildfires are causing up to 20% of global CO2 emissions. That's a number very rarely known. Most people don't know. It's about the same amount the entire traffic, all cars, all aeroplanes, all ship combined put into the air. And we as humans are responsible for 80% of those fire ignitions, and it's killing about 3 billion animals each year and causing damages of $140 billion to the economy, and 10 billion of those is direct insurance payouts. So it's a big problem that needs to be solved. And we are, of course, not the only ones solving this. There are satellites on space from NASA and startups. There are cameras being placed in the forest to detect wildfires. And they're all good, they all make sense. Problem with all of them, it takes too long to detect the fire. By the time the fire brigade arrive at the scene, the fire is already too large, very often, to be extinguished at all. And then you end up with these mega fires that unfortunately we're seeing increasingly on the news. And this is where Dryad is really focused on. We want to catch fires in their infancy, when they're still in the smoldering phase, when there not even is an open fire. That's our focus, to give the fighting chance to the firefighters to extinguish it before it spreads out of control. And to do this, we've developed a complete solution ranging from sensors to communications infrastructure, including a cloud application monitoring and alerting platform. So we've developed these sensors. The hardware, the embedded software ourselves is our IP. These are solar-powered gas sensors, not particle sensors, but gas sensors for hydrogen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, with embedded artificial intelligence that can reliably detect wildfires with a very high accuracy to avoid false positives. They're being placed in the forest and can detect the wildfires within 60 minutes. We're also creating a telecommunications infrastructure. I can't help it, I'm a telecoms guy. So we're building our own communications network in the forest because the mobile operators, Vodafone, etc., don't do it. So we're placing an IoT network into the forest for our sensors and third-party sensors. We have a lot of IP. We filed a few patents around, in particular, this mesh network infrastructure, because we need to cover very large areas and very large numbers of sensors in an area that's completely unconnected. And that's why we're doing this groundbreaking mesh network infrastructure with the gateways that I've just shown you. We also have border gateways with satellite and 4G uplink into our cloud-based platform. So it's a complete end-to-end solution. And the focus is, of course, on asset protection, preventing damages, reducing cost of firefighting, last but not least, saving lives, and dramatically in reducing costs of fires, basically. But the potential is much broader than that. We're installing a generic IoT network infrastructure in the forest. So any compatible sensor, and there are hundreds from other companies that can work on our infrastructure, can be used for soil moisture, determining the size and growth of a tree, to detect chainsaws when somebody steals wood out of the forest. So there are multiple applications that you can slot in once the infrastructure is in place in an area that's completely unconnected right now. It's a $9 billion industry that has no connectivity effectively. So we're here to change that. We are focusing initially on private forestry because that's the lowest hurdle to entry. We're speaking to very large forestry companies like Weyerhaeuser with 7 million hectares of forest in the United States and a few others. And utility companies are important for us, like PG&E and NL. We're in discussions with because they cause wildfires. Of course, public and insurance companies are important to us. We're just starting. We're having our first sales this year. Next year, we're targeting 700,000 of revenue euro, and profitability we're aiming in 2024. We've had 1.8 million VC funding from 4 investors, including Stihl, the world's largest chainsaw manufacturer. For obvious reasons, they invested. We got 1.6 million euro from European Union as grants and loans. And we have 1.8 million additional funds committed from existing investors in our Series A that we're trying to raise right now, or aiming to raise, which is 8 to 10 million, to fund the go-to-market scaling and sales internationally. We're not just a financial company. Obviously, we are an impact company. So we've got SDG goals. Based on our business plan, we will save 1.4 million hectares from burning by 2030 with our sensors. And with that, we will prevent 600 million tons of CO2 emissions and save 85 million animals from perishing. To put that into context, Tesla on their webpage claims that they have saved 17 million tons of CO2 with their entire fleet so far. So we have obviously a bigger impact potential, we think. And that would be the overview of Dryad, and I hope that you join us on the journey to connect the natural world and prevent the world from fires.
Thank you, Carsten. That's very helpful. Really good, nice, tight presentation. Happy to open this up to questions, to observations. I will mention before that I do so. John Jacobson from AgDevco, which is a specialist investor in African agri and forestry businesses, sent his apologies, wanted to be on the call, but we'll be sending him the recording afterward, as did Jamie Cowan with the Forest Fund, based in the UK. They both can see some obvious benefits to their sphere of participation. I just couldn't make the call, but they've asked for me to send them the tape. Going forward, I don't know. I presume that you all on the call came on the call because there was something here that intrigued you, and I'd be interested in any comments, any observations, any inspirations that we can provide Carson going forward. Anybody like to start?
Yeah, okay, I'll chip in if no one else is going.
Thanks, Richard.
Hi, Carson. I was wondering your view on. I totally get the focus on private forestry. Whether you think you're going to see the first interest more from Europe or North America or even Latin America, because I guess Latin American forestry or industry in Brazil particularly is extremely advanced compared to some of the much slower growing. Physically slower growing trees in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes, the initial application is wildfire detection. That's the easiest value proposition to sell. We focused on that, and we have more interest than we can handle at the moment that we can chew. So we're limiting ourselves to 10 installations this year. And they will be not just in Europe. We're working on 2 in the United States. 3 in Southern Europe, that is Greece and Spain and France, but then also Indonesia and Australia. And that's currently the opportunities that we are working on. These are pretty large companies, including Weyerhaeuser, which I mentioned earlier. They're also very interested in the health and growth monitoring, so as a generic data acquisition network in the forest, which are completely unconnected at this stage. So I'd say the low-hanging fruits are really, of course, the wildfire detection use cases, and that means everywhere where you see wildfires in the news, we can sell because there is enormous damage being caused by these fires.
Really good, Raphael. I didn't know if this area of fire detection prevention is of interest to Equinor, but I thought I'd ask the question.
Yeah, I would say forestry has been very much on the edge of our strategy. It's something that our sustainability team is looking into as an important area to consider, but there has not been an explicit statement about how it relates to the strategy at the moment. I would consider it more like an explore category within Equinor Ventures. That would the interest from our SSU team would be important for us to give us some direction into where the space where we would be looking to invest.
Well, if you feel it's appropriate, I think one thing that Carson has developed, given that he has he and I share a telecommunications background, but he has great expertise in this area, and if that could inform any of the strategic direction of the company going forward as global stewards, that can certainly be happy to make those introductions. Carson, one of the things that you asked us to put on our website, which we did, was a call for trials for your technology. Is that something that you're still looking for, or is that, or have you closed off that activity?
No, it's still open. Of course, we set a deadline as we want to create urgency, but we are still open and of course adding more opportunities to the pipeline. We're getting close to the 10. Then of course we can change the ranking if we find something more exciting. We already have a few good ones, but we limit ourselves to 10, and then those we can't do this year, we're going to do next year.
Just on that, Carson, sorry, Richard here again. Are you seeing is it the integrated forest companies are responding in the kind of zones you mentioned, or are you also talking to some of the large institutional owners? Because in North America, I guess there's a private forestry that the massive owners are the giant pension funds who own them through the TIMO organizations. There's timber management, and some of those, I think, maybe even more so than the forest product companies are early movers on the sustainability aspects of what you're describing.
Yeah, what I haven't mentioned, because it was a really short pitch, is how our go-to-market strategy works. We do not intend to sell directly, but through a reseller and OEM network. So we really are focused on a products company. And yes, we'll do marketing and product development, but go-to-market on a global basis directly is going to be really challenging and very expensive. So our go-to-market strategies with reseller and OEM, we already have 4 resellers signed up despite our early stage that are offering the product in local countries. And we are currently starting OEM negotiations with our investor Stihl, which obviously is one of the largest companies that sells into the forestry industry and all aspects of it. So if we conclude with this deal, which we expect in about 6 months, then you would see these things being orange, labeled Stihl on it, and you can buy it everywhere where you can buy chainsaws, basically. And that would flood basically the market, in particular the forestry industry. So that's our strategy.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, I think there's also, but I think there's an opportunity for some top-down pressure, because actually some of there is quite concentrated ownership, and they do apply a lot of influence to the way those forests are managed, and awareness of those. So I mean, we can catch up afterwards. I know some people involved in that. I can.
Would love to use your network if you offer that. I'd definitely be very grateful for it. We're also having some really obvious discussions in California with Cal Fire, for example, and PG&E, which went bankrupt because they caused one of the biggest wildfires ever with their power lines. So obviously they don't want that to happen again. So yes, there are so many opportunities we can go to. It's a bit mind-boggling, and I wish I had more than 14 hours a day.
I think that's awesome. I'd love to see this technology be ubiquitous in the forestry industry. I think there's quite a lot of demand. I was a bit shocked to see the emission statement that you made. That's a huge worry for all of us.
But if I may add to that, that's something which I still can't believe, even though after 1.5, 2 years into this, the issue even is worse than that. The 7.8 billion tons of CO2 emissions coming from wildfires do not appear in any carbon budget of any country, because it's deemed to be carbon neutral, I learned, and which of course is kind of cynical, because it's 20% of the problem. The theory here is that in the next 100 years or so, as the forest may regrow, if it does, these 100 million tons from a California wildfire would be reabsorbed in the next 100 years. Of course, we do not have 100 years to fix the climate crisis. So in the next 20 years, it's anything else but carbon neutral. It's a massive net contributor to climate change. Except nobody talks about it, net really, which is 20% of the issue is not being talked about from a climate change perspective. People are saying, yes, it's bad because of biodiversity loss and everything, but it's a net contributor, a massive net contributor that we can easily stop with technology.
There are also climate bonds that are depending on forestry management as well, and to see carbon credits going up in smoke, you would think that would get some financiers' attention.
Yep.
Going forward. So I think that's worth. I think that's a pressure point worth worth highlighting. Carson, by all means. I didn't know if there are any other questions for Carson from the floor. Are there? I appreciate we're all kind of coming to a close. Thank you for indulging me. I know that we're a little bit over time. I just want to say one thing, and I'll share a screen with you. Both Dryad and Exxfire are in this location. I always alphabetical search the ventures on the Greenbackers Investment Showcase. You can see their information. A little bit more detail than we've gone through here, but certainly you can get more detail on their programs, as well as direct contact information for both Dryad and Exxfire. And then the last thing for me to do really is to just remind you our session in the 9th of November in Glasgow. From the COP, Greenbackers Super Pitch, Carsten, Harm, Eric, and 24 other ventures will be presenting in a speed pitch type of format with some panel discussions. If you're in the neighborhood, I'd love to buy you a whiskey. The networking will be fantastic. We have a venue that can handle up to 300 delegates. If you can't make it, and I totally get that, and there is a carbon overhead in flying over to Glasgow, you can attend online and see a couple of hours of fantastic presentations. I hope you'll be able to join us. You'll get invitations to this shortly, and we'd certainly love to see you.